What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. So there's a report out today that experts have been warning the EU that Boris Johnson plans to get nasty in regards to his trade deal. As we all know, he has promised and signed into law the fact that the transition period cannot be extended. So like I said before, it is possible that he does go very hardball with the EU, especially in response to the article I covered before that said the EU plan to go hardball with him. With a political expert warning that the UK is going to play hardball with the EU and that the EU is going to struggle in that because, of course, as we all know, they need a trade deal much more than we do. We are literally propping up the EU financially as it stands. But the Express has an article on it saying EU panic as Boris Johnson to become nasty with Brussels to secure Brexit deal. Eurocrats have been warned that Brexit trade negotiations could bring out the nasty side of Boris Johnson after the Prime Minister pledged to deliver on an agreement within 12 months, which is something we already knew. Then we got this short clip here from France 24, which we'll play, and then I'll carry on reading the article.
And there's this second cliff edge, Richard Verly, which he has set up because he has said emphatically there has to be a trade deal by the end of 2020 or else.
True. I'm afraid that in 2020, as far as the European Union is concerned, we're going to discover nasty Boris Johnson. Until now, he was either the buffoon or the populist, but he's going to become nasty on the trade issue. It's not going to be easy for the EU to negotiate that trade deal. And to tell the truth, the EU needs a trade deal as much as the UK. We've been told in 2019 with a large part of truth that the UK was in a weaker position because it was the Brexit without an agreement would have been very difficult to hold for the British economy. Now it's a bit different, and with the election in his favor, Boris Johnson can now come forward more fiercely, and I'm afraid that the unity within the 27 might be a bit shaky during the coming month.
Boris Johnson ruled out extending the Brexit transition period past December 2020 as he expressed his confidence a new commercial agreement with the European Union can be struck by December 2020. His commitment sparked political expert Richard Worley to warn Brussels could see the Prime Minister become nasty in order to secure a deal with the bloc within 12 months. Le Temps Paris correspondent told France 24, "I'm afraid that in 2020, as far as the European Union is concerned, we are going to discover a nasty Boris Johnson." And so they should, considering the games they've been playing with us over the last few years. It's about time a British Prime Minister started taking them to task. Until now, as you heard in the clip, he was the buffoon or the populist, but he is going to become nasty on the trade issue. It isn't going to be easy for the EU to negotiate that deal. No, it's not. And if they try to play hardball, Boris Johnson has the majority in Parliament to just go no deal, right, we'll leave right now. But I don't know whether he'll do that. Something inside me tells me that he probably wouldn't. So I still think he would prefer a trade deal, but he's definitely left the option open to not get a trade deal so he doesn't end up in a position that makes him look like Maybot. To tell the truth, the EU needs a trade deal as much as the UK. Now, we heard him say that during the clip, and that's not correct. The EU needs a trade deal a hell of a lot more than we do. We've been told in 2019 with a large part of the truth the UK was in a weaker position because of Brexit without an agreement would have been difficult for the British economy. Now it's a bit different. No, it's not a bit different. It wouldn't have been difficult for the British economy any more than it would be now. The difficulty would have been political difficulty. With a minority government, a no-deal Brexit would have been very hard to sort out because, of course, you would have had Ramonas left and right, as we see before the election, trying their best to stop everything that Boris Johnson is trying to do. Even if it was a good thing, let's be honest, it's Boris derangement syndrome. Anything Boris said is Boris bad. It's much like Trump in the US with Trump derangement syndrome. So no, it's not that the British economy is different now, the British economy is the same. The difference is, like I've said, political. With a majority, things get a whole lot easier, especially a no-deal Brexit. The article continues, Mr Worley also suggested EU chief negotiator Michel Barnier could see his attempts to keep the EU 27 united through the second phase of Brexit talks collapse, should member states begin to calculate the benefits of a close trade alliance with the UK. Because as they know, we are the bank balance of the EU. So when we're gone, they know that money's gone. And hopefully member states do realise that their benefits lie outside of the EU and start pushing for an exit themselves. I will back them, of course, as I'm sure most of my viewers would also, because our problem is with the EU, not the European nations. The European Union maintained a united front through the first 3 years of talks with the British government, but some countries, including Ireland, have expressed concerns the bloc's firm stance could have a serious impact on their national economies. Mr Worley continued, with the British election in his favour, Boris Johnson can now come forward more forcefully, and I'm afraid the unity there was in the 27 might be shaky during the coming months, which is something we have heard from Hungary, Poland and Spain if memory serves, and of course if the reports are to be believed. At some point, different countries will take the calculator and start to see where are the benefits of having a good trade relationship with the UK, and when you start to calculate, the sense of unity may disappear. I expect it will do. The Prime Minister's latest Brexit bill rules out any extension to the transition period beyond the end of 2020, as I've said and we've all heard many times, meaning London and Brussels will have just 11 months to broker a free trade agreement, which would typically be expected to take several years. That's fine, if they can't do it in 11 months, we'll happily take a no-deal Brexit. If no trade agreement is agreed by the end of the transition period and no extension is agreed, which it can't be now, and fucking rightfully so, the UK may still face an effective no-deal Brexit when the transition ends. Well, bring it on, let's go. Following the Conservative success on December 12th, Mr Varadkar has been urged to lay out a timetable for an orderly dissolution of the Dáil, Ireland's Parliament. And the rest of the article is just talking shit about the Irish Parliament and an upcoming election, so we won't bother talking about that. But I would say this guy is right. It is possible that Boris Johnson could get nasty with the EU, and I hope he does. I hope he plays really hardball with them, because at the end of the day, it is in their interest to give us a good trade deal. This is something we have to remember. I mean, personally, I would be happy if Boris Johnson just said, you know what, we're leaving now with no deal. Stick the transition period up your arse. Let's just get this done and get it over with. Of course, he's not going to do that, but that is what I would prefer. Him playing hardball with the EU is the minimum expectation, in my opinion. This is how all negotiations should be done. You don't go in there trying to be nice, you're trying to get what you want. It's a dog-eat-dog world. But on that note, I will end the video there, guys. It was only supposed to be a short one just to bring you this. Before I go though, I do want to thank our PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar and YouTube members for supporting the channel, along with everyone who watches my videos. Remember to let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. Leave a like, subscribe with a notification bell and share this video as it helps the channel a lot. And I'll see you all in the next one.
And Corbyn neutral by Christmas.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors. Slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.
Ramon! Ramon!